Welcome to the Bend Don't Break podcast. We are powered by The Source, Ben's locally owned media company and weekly newspaper. This podcast is our eddy in the rushing waters of local journalism. We are glad that you're taking some of your time to listen to us chat with the people who shape our local community. Support us through our member program at bensource.com.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, RE/MAX Key Properties, a family-owned full-service real estate brokerage specializing in residential, luxury, commercial, new construction, and ranch and land properties. Their new state-of-the-art facility at 42 Greenwood Avenue is a modern, collaborative space and the new home of the Bend Don't Break podcast recording studio.
I'm Aaron Switzer, publisher of The Source and co-producer of this podcast with Megan Burton. Off screen, off mic. Today we have Jason Stein, executive director of Opera Bend, with us. His background includes both performing and directing, producing musicals and operas. As a performer in Central Oregon, Jason has performed the roles of Don Jose in Carmen, Eisenstein in Die Fledermaus, Tamino in The Magic Flute, Count Almaviva and Bartolo in separate productions of The Barber of Seville, Rodolfo in La Boheme, and Jean Valjean in Les Miserables. Jason has also performed many lead roles with theater and opera companies in New York and New Jersey. His educational background includes a Bachelor of Fine Arts, where he studied acting with Stella Adler in New York City, and Master of Science degree from NYU. He's a co-founder of Opera Bend has been since 2014 and has been producing and sometimes directing its operas since. I think I stumbled over that one. You started Opera Bend in 2014.
My wife and I started it in 2014.
Yeah.
You know, the Obsidian Opera was the opera up until 2008.
Okay.
And we felt like we could do this.
Had you worked with them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So several of those productions that you listed, the Eisenstein and Die Fledermaus.
Okay.
I did a production with Obsidian Opera that Monica Torre directed, with my wife singing Rosalinda.
Okay.
It was kind of how we fell in love with each other, singing opposite.
I'm thinking this is an opera house.
Yeah, exactly. So, and La Boheme, we produced many different operas since 2014. My wife.
So then when Obsidian Opera ceased, you decided to step into the void?
Yeah, exactly. We felt like there was a need here. There was lots of folks that wanted to perform. And, my wife and I went to Michael Gesme, who, of course, everybody knows in this town. And this is a special year for him because he's retiring. We wanted to see if we could launch this. And, he's been amazingly supportive.
Sure.
He was our conductor from the beginning. And how lucky are we for that? Yes.
Right. I'm fascinated because we're continually pulling in for podcast guests, people from Bend Film, the Cabaret, the Green Cabaret, all these connections to New York. Like these folks that
that's interesting,
have come from much bigger markets, places where, like yourself.
Okay.
Where did you get your start in opera?
Oh boy, where did I get my start in opera? Okay. I was an acting student under Stella Adler, and I, since I was 11 years old, was performing in summer stock, in musicals and dramas, and it was just amazing.
Where were you living?
At that time, it was Central Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Or not. And I knew once I graduated from high school that I had to go to New York. It was
you had to escape Central Pennsylvania.
Yes, there was a little bit of that for sure. But I had to be where all the action was.
Yeah.
And so I did, and, learned a lot in New York. And I was studying my voice privately during the whole time I was in New York. But really, my concentration was in theater world, and trying to make a living as an actor is very difficult. There's a reason that people say that they're starving artists, because they are. And on a fluke, I went to an audition for an opera, and gee, I was, one of 4 tenors, I believe it was. I was like, geez, I've got 25% chance of actually making the part. Whereas when you go to a musical theater audition, you're one of 250 people,
Right.
and so the chances were a lot better. And my voice teacher at the time, I was really kind of following my voice, which wanted to be bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Bigger than musical theater voices typically.
Yeah.
And I really loved that challenge of singing higher notes than in typical musical theater, and louder, and
So it wasn't all just following where the work was. I mean, you were
it was a little bit of both.
you were enjoying the work itself.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very
Yeah.
much. I felt like my voice fit
Yeah.
a lot better than in opera than in musical theater. And I think I'm right about that.
I'm sure listeners can hear right now. It's you got a place for radio.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's good to hear. So I followed that and started getting so many parts in New York, singing opera. Of course, they were initially small roles, and the music is just amazing. Verdi, Puccini, Donizetti, Mozart. I could go on and on. There's just so many good hits. Fledermaus is one of those, by the way. It's actually considered an operetta just because typically there's dialogue in the middle of it, and it's most of the time done in English in America. Of course, not in Europe, but in America it is typically, at least the English is done. The dialogue is done in English. So that was kind of my kickoff into opera. And then I came to Central Oregon visiting a friend.
So, staying in New York for just a
Sure.
second, what size houses were you performing for at that time?
They were big YMCA's, big churches.
Okay.
The group opera that I performed in mostly performed in big churches, which was really cool. I mean, it was full orchestra. In those days, my friend, who was a regular chorister at the Met, he was the director of the group opera, and so I would sing the second tenor roles to singers who were singing at the Met at the time. So I was
amazing.
It was great. It was such a great experience working with those people that you could see a week later doing a big role at the Met.
Yeah.
And there were many other singers as well. They weren't all Met singers, but they were all having careers, operatic careers. And
were you aspiring to get on that stage at the Met at the time?
Of course. I mean, I think everybody was, but I also knew that I had a long way to go at the time. I was a young singer. Okay, so it's also really kind of strange the way, careers in opera work, they don't typically start when you're young, like a little ballerina might, where the dance career is very young sometimes to, I don't know, they get injured or I guess that's a premature ending, but they don't go very far into adulthood.
Right.
And an opera career doesn't start until you're an adult, until your voice has really changed and you can handle the roles.
Okay.
I mean, I think Pavarotti's Met debut was late 20s. Maybe he was early 30s. I don't remember the exact number, but he was late into his adulthood before he was even singing. Now, he maybe is an exception to that, but because just how amazing he was. But most tenors, I'm a tenor. Most tenors, your voice has to fully develop before you can have a career. So I felt like I could still do this. I could still, here I am in my early 20s
Yeah.
and singing, I could still do this.
Yeah. Were you trying to hurry that growth
Oh, of
up? Are there
course.
ways to like get yourself to become older?
Not to become older, not to change your voice. I don't think there's any natural ways to do that. But you throw money at it, you spend lots of money studying and coaching
Yeah.
and learning languages. You know, there's so many things to learn in opera. Of course, you're on stage, so you have to be an actor as well, which my background was in that. So I felt like, oh, I've got that covered. I just need to start studying languages, and of which there are, like 4 of the main ones: Italian, French, German. Sometimes we sing in English, of course, but more and more it's, a foreign language that you're singing in. And so uh, there's just a lot of work that you have to put in, and a lot
Sure.
of money, and it's a huge investment. Then, when I came out here, I was like, well, I'm not going to throw it all away, all that work that I've done.
How old were you when you decided to leave New York?
I was
And was
20
it direct from
28.
New York to Central Oregon?
Yes, it was
Okay.
direct from New York. I was about 28, I believe, maybe 29, something like that. And
And what year was this? What time?
1995,
Okay.
January 95.
Well, you got here a couple years before me.
So, and I've been in Central Oregon since. So I have to say Central Oregon's my home now. It's kind of weird to say that. I always used to say, oh, I'm a New Yorker. Well, not really. Not really. Of course, I don't know what the rule is for that. Is it how many years you've spent in?
I feel like 95. You can check the local box.
Yeah, right.
We started the paper in 97. I'm checking the box.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can give those out now.
I mean, if you could remember before the Parkway existed, I
Yeah.
suppose that's
right. Yeah, I remember riding down the Parkway before they opened it to cars. They had
Yeah.
time where they were like, "Come on down and ride it. We're having them." I'll never forget
And
it.
do you remember all of the people who were against it
Oh, we were.
picketing
Yep. Yeah.
and stuff?
Yeah,
And-
because the idea was if we didn't have the Parkway, we wouldn't grow. Somehow if there was no Parkway, then we wouldn't have the infrastructure to keep growing. And I think that's a misnomer.
Yeah. I mean, it just grew no matter what.
Yeah.
It was going to grow.
Yeah.
Maybe the Parkway helped it a little bit. I remember, getting north to south in Bend was so quick at that time. It was like half the
Right.
time.
Right. Right. Well, what brings you from New York to Central Oregon? Does this have to do with the other part of the opera house?
The other part of the
Your wife?
Oh, no, I wasn't with her at the time.
Okay.
So, no, I can't blame anything on her. No, yeah, I just was visiting a friend, came out to Central Oregon, and more or less fell in love with Central Oregon, and threw my resume around and got a call a few months later with a job offer. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. Can we do this? It's got to be cheaper to live in Central Oregon than in New York City, right?
At least it was then.
It seemed like it. Although there's a lot of things in New York that, you don't have to pay for garbage. That's part of your rent. You don't have to pay for water. That's
Yeah.
part of your rent. So, it was deceptively more expensive there in New York, but, I made it work.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And then once you're here, you pretty much like the quality of living. I mean, that's the quality of life here was just so much better.
I'm trying to imagine 1995, and I imagine when you got here, you jumped right in and started performing.
A little bit, yeah. I mean,
Opera here in Bend in 1995, 96.
well, Obsidian started in 1997, so that wasn't that far away.
Yeah.
Before that, I think I did something with Sun River when Larry Smith was there. He did a Oedipus Tex,
Yeah.
which is a PDQ Bach. I don't know if you're familiar with PDQ Bach, or it's a takeoff on Oedipus Rex, and the tenor part is the narrator. It's pretty hilarious, pretty out of this world. And Peter Schickele is the composer's name, and he coined the PDQ Bach is his pseudonym.
Okay.
So he
Yeah.
wrote all these operas or music. It wasn't just operas. He's written a lot of music, satire, all of it,
Yeah.
and really hilarious stuff. Some of it, over the top, some of it. And this one was Oedipus Tex, and Larry, the conductor, played the mouth harp. I don't know if you're familiar with what a mouth harp is.
Yes.
Looks like a little keyboard about that long, and you blow into it. And that was written in the role.
Oh, I thought you meant those ones that are like.
Oh, no. No, I don't. Is that also a mouth harp?
It's I don't know what the official name is, and I don't want to
Okay.
get it wrong. So
Yeah, maybe what I'm saying is not official, but I don't know. It was. It looks like a toy. Okay, and Larry would press the notes, and hopefully I would get my pitches. And I remember during that performance, he would press notes that I don't think were right. I know they weren't right. It's like, okay, I don't know where that came from, but we had a good time.
yeah.
And
Well, I got to
everybody
think
slept.
in 19, where I remember. I mean, I remember Obsidian Opera at the time, and I remember. I mean, Bend was a. I mean, opera isn't everybody's cup of tea. It's a higher. I think it's a pretty higher aesthetic. And it's 1997 when Obsidian Opera started, and
Yeah.
I mean, there were maybe 40,000 people here. Not. I
Yeah.
mean, I think you were. I mean, Obsidian Opera introduced a lot of people to opera.
Yes,
It-
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that people should give it a shot before they just poo-poo opera. It's not all about 5 hours in a theater with people singing in a language you don't understand. That's, I think, the fear.
Mhm.
My wife and I, when we started Opera Bend, we got hats and shirts that said "Fear No Opera," because it's kind of a silly fear. Just so everyone knows, Die Fledermaus, which we're doing in June, is sung in English, and the dialogue is in English. Everybody will understand. And on top of that, we're going to have supertitles. So when they're singing, if there's a word or two that you miss, you just read what the word
Oh,
is.
wow. So you have a screen behind it.
It's actually on top. It's at Mountain
Okay.
View. So it's on the top of the proscenium, basically.
That's neat.
And yeah, I mean, it really works well. People will understand all of the jokes. And I don't know about you, but when I'm watching news at home or any sitcom, I've got the closed captioning on all the time because people mumble.
Yeah.
And that's what. And plus, I'm getting older. So it's
Yeah,
hard to hear.
I do it too. I think we're aging ourselves. I don't think
Maybe.
we want to say that
Maybe.
with Megan's in the room. You are.
I think it's a lot of mumbling is what it is, and Harrison Ford, maybe. I mean, he's a great actor. I love Harrison Ford, but he kind of got that mumbling thing going. Anyway, so that's what this is
Yeah.
all about. Is like the supertitles are there, so you miss a word. Oh, no problem. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
what he said.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Why? Why? So, given the audience and given the market, why opera here? I mean, you're still, even for our size, you're still, I would say, introducing people to opera
Yeah,
in the
I
market.
think you're right. I do. I think that. All right, so why opera? I mean, God, this is
Not just because you're a tenor.
Well, I mean, I think that has a lot to do with it. People say, "Well, is your opera company just a vanity company? You're just trying to promote yourself." Yeah, there's some truth
Wait,
to that.
Aren't all
for sure.
companies vanity companies? I don't.
Well, I don't
at
know.
their base.
Typically, the tenor is not your executive director
Yeah,
of
okay.
the opera company.
Right.
I guess that's what I mean. But it's not that I perform in every one of them. As
Yeah.
a matter of fact, the older I get, the less I can perform.
Yeah.
Our bodies wear out, and voice is part of our bodies. And so it's not that I can't sing anymore, but the amount of singing that we do, I fatigue a lot easier.
Yeah,
as
sure.
older. It's kind of the same way if you do sports. You could play basketball for 10 minutes and then, you start going downhill, right? Same thing with singing. You can sing for however long. It's just you need a little more breaks in between.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by that concept of the vanity company. So, because I actually had never thought that that would be a thing. Like, today I've decided we're going to do this performance and I'm the lead. And, I
Well,
suppose that's out there, but it's a pretty
yeah.
big load of work for just to put yourself on the field.
Well, when I was in my 30s, I had a list of like a bucket list
Yeah.
of operas that I wanted to do
Yeah.
before I die,
Yeah.
before I couldn't sing anymore,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I wasn't checking any of those off. I just wasn't. So I was like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And
Right.
the only way you're going to do it is to produce it yourself.
Right.
And so that's, a little bit of, now of those 12, how many have I done? Not all of them. I wouldn't even say half of them, but I've done.
Better get going.
I know, right? I realize that I'm not going to, but I did some of the ones that I really was loving to do, like La Boheme
Yeah.
and Lucia di Lammermoor, among others, so, and Cavalleria, that's another one that I did. But now my interest is more in producing or directing these great operas, and keeping the company going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I find that to be I produce Theater in the Park, and once a year, and it's my toe into
That's right.
this theatrical world, and I'm happy to put the toe in and then pull back out once. I mean, it's a ton of work, it's a ton of personalities, but what a fulfilling thing to bring to people. But as far as vanity publications go, well, you find out real quick if it's a vanity performance because no one's in the audience.
yeah. I hope that I've made enough fans now that, at least some of them come. I know that the other folks that I bring in from, a lot of them are from out of town. But, when I say out of town, Portland,
Yeah.
the Valleys,
That's
Portland,
great.
Seattle is typically
Yep.
who we pull in. I've got favorites now that, they might live in Portland, but they're loved here.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you pull when you're doing a opera performance here? Are you pulling people from other areas, or do you just work with Central Oregonians for the production?
Well, okay, so we've got various different types of productions. Some of our productions are only local singers.
Yeah.
We just did one in February, the Ben Singer Showcase in February, and it was only folks local. And the medium in May that we're producing is an already completely performed and staged and sung show that we're just presenting from
Oh,
another
That's great.
opera company. Yeah.
Yep.
And they are great. And it makes it just, a lot easier for us. We're
Mhm.
just pulling in and presenting kind of like what the Tower does, right?
We did it with Shakespeare in the Park.
There you go.
They would
Exactly.
come over from Portland. They were a
Yes.
fully formed company. They had
Exactly.
practically it was great. You could introduce people to levels of quality that
Exactly.
unforeseen before here.
Yes.
So
And many of those singers have already sung with opera band in the past. Maybe not all of them, but many of them have.
yeah.
So I know, a good number of those singers, and it's going to be great, and so I would encourage that. That's May 23rd and 24th at Willie Hall at the
Okay.
college.
Yeah.
And then Fledermaus is, again, we cast these roles months ahead of time. And they come in knowing their role on day one. And so that's also very different than a theater where,
Where you're learning the play. So these people come to you. They're fully formed. They know the play. They know the lyric. They know everything.
yes,
They know the words.
the only thing they may not have down is the dialogue.
Okay.
But that's fine. There's not that much dialogue
Right.
that it's going to trip them up. But yeah, they know all of the music, and if they don't know the music, then they're fired and we get somebody else in.
I was going to say.
Oh yeah,
That's a
that has happened in the past. Unfortunately, that has
Sure.
to happen. But
right.
we don't have enough time when we put on the operas there. It's 2 weeks of time is what we have.
Yeah.
So
2 weeks
Mhm.
for the marking, for the movement, for everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
As you know,
Yeah.
when that's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
Now, but that isn't the only thing we do. Like I said, we have a Ben Singer showcase, and we also have many times we'll do other things that will not involve out-of-town singers. Les Mis didn't involve any out-of-town singers.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that was a co-production with Sure Thing Productions. Actually, they're the producer. They in the Tower produced it. Opera Bend was hired to be the vocal and music directors.
Okay.
So, and
for that had to be an incredible amount of work. I mean, that performance is enormous.
We spent 9 months.
If you told me 2 weeks, I was going to faint.
That was we spent 9 months working on that one.
Yeah.
It was about 5.5 of music only, and then we got the staging in. So,
yeah.
But that's actually 9 months is pretty much what you spend on a role. When you're hired to do a role, you start months ahead of time,
Sure.
and you need to get that role in your voice. So that's kind of what I wanted to do as the vocal director and music director, is get that get the roles into the local singers, and that was a great time that we had.
Were you Jean Valjean?
I was Valjean. Yes. Which is a hard role to sing.
I can't. I mean,
it's very high. It's very low. You have to have falsetto, and opera singers don't typically have falsetto, especially not tenors. Baritones and basses sometimes do.
Yeah.
But yeah, not an easy role to sing. But I was up for the challenge.
Yeah. That's bucket list. I'm
Yeah,
sure that was a check.
yeah.
I'm sure that was a check.
Yes, exactly. For sure.
You have Die Fledermaus. Did I say that right?
Die Fledermaus, yes.
Die Fledermaus coming up in June.
Yes.
You said?
June 19 and 21.
What can people expect from that performance?
Hilarity. This is
for people who don't know the opera at all.
Okay, so it's the music was written by the Waltz King. That's Johann Strauss Jr., who wrote the Blue Danube Waltz and many, many, many different waltzes. So it's this 19th century waltz music, which is just amazing music. You hum it pretty much the minute you leave the theater. It's really it sticks to our brains, to our collective brains.
Yeah.
So that's the music. It's a very hilarious story of mistaken identities and revenge in a fun way.
Yeah.
Revenge, doing a prank revenge, basically, is what it
Yeah.
is. And hence the name Die Fledermaus. That's German for the bat. And one of the main guys had a prank on him, and he had this costume of the bat, and he was so drunk and left on a park bench, and woke up the next morning with his costume and everybody laughing. So that's the prank that he's getting back for. And there's a little bit of infidelity, but nothing too tragic. And in the end, people make up, and it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
Nobody dies. It's like you either have folks dying in opera, which happens quite a bit, of course, or you don't, and it's a comedy. So this is the latter. This is a comedy.
And you'll have subtitles for people. Is it sung in? Is it in German?
English.
It's in English. Okay.
We had an opportunity to do this in German. We voted on it. And I really wanted to do this particular version. It's written by a friend of mine from the Bay Area named Ross Halper. And it's pretty irreverent.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious at times. And so, it's done in English, but like I said, if folks don't understand a word, they can follow along.
Yeah. Will you have the subtitles up for people?
Supertitles above the
I think it's a pretty snob-free opera community here. I think they'll be okay with the English.
Oh yeah. I definitely
You won't have
think so.
anybody picketing for the original.
English isn't an easy language to sing. Let me be the first to tell you, but people will still hear fabulous voices
Yeah.
in this opera. Fabulous. I'm not in this opera. I'm directing it. I've sung Eisenstein a couple times. So I chose to just be on the other side of this time.
Yeah. That's great.
And direct the hilarity.
Great. Well, we are at the conclusion of our time here
Right, it did go
on the
fast.
podcast. I told you. I warned you. Well, we talked about your two upcoming performances in May and June. Die Fledermaus will be at Mountain View.
Yes.
Are tickets available for sale now?
Yes, they are. Both the medium is done on a donation basis.
Okay.
So you pay whatever you want, or nothing if you don't have any funds now. But just come and watch. It's worth it.
Yeah.
And Die Fledermaus is a ticket of $45. You can go to operabend.org and get a link to Die Fledermaus.
Great.
And that is also worth it.
And what?
And Michael Gesme is conducting. Oh, and one other thing.
That'll probably be one of the last times people would see him doing one of these.
Maybe
You got your arm twisting?
I'm thinking I might be able to pull him in the future. I'm thinking. We'll see.
Yeah.
He hasn't committed to anything yet. But we're also featuring the Central Oregon School of Ballet.
Oh, incredible.
So they're doing a performance this month of Giselle. So if you like ballet, go check that out. And, this is a waltz. This is dancing.
Yeah.
So
great.
why not have the best dancers in Central Oregon? So we're featuring them as well.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Jason, for being here.
Yeah.
This has been the Bend Don't Break podcast. If you like what you heard, you've heard this before, go to bendsource.com, become a member. Please donate. Help us continue to do these crazy podcasts and have opera people come in and talk to us about performances you should go see. Thank you. You've been listening to the Bend Don't Break podcast, powered by The Source Weekly. To read, hear, and see more of what we do, go to bendsource.com.